now we have Sheena, and she has no fun facts. So I'm going to tell you what I know about her and make it a fun fact. Sheena and I are from the same city, which is why I can say this even though it may sound obnoxious. If Bombay, my city, her city, was Brown University, Sheena is from the Perkins of it, and I am not.
I live in Pembroke.
Welcome back.
Just saying.
Alright, and she's going to be doing some spoken word for us.
So raise your hand if you've ever felt personally victimized by Regina George. Raise your hand if you've ever felt personally victimized by white colonialism. No? Yeah? Yeah? Right. Okay, so the thing about, so back home when in history class when we would learn about colonialism, there were, about like British colonialism in India, there's always this weird rhetoric of how we were kind of like saved in some way by like these white masters who like gave us all this like great culture and like built these like beautiful like churches and stuff. So I mean, yeah, this is a poem I wrote about that.
Thanks, whiteness.
Thanks a lot, whiteness. We owe you one. JK, not really. Unit 4, Chapter 19, Reconstruction of the Indian Subcontinent. In 1765, the first British colonizers began to seize South Asian soil. With the touch of Midas, they blessed our primitive land, took dirty, barbaric, and built a civilization. Footnote, civilization, a socially advanced culture built by white men on the broken backs of brown-skinned savages. From 1858 to 1947, colonizers educated the Indians, built churches, and taught them the right way to pray, rechristened their cities in English. Footnote, English, a West Germanic language spread like a pandemic across the British Empire. Now, it is a global medium, a job requirement, a way to separate Western from barbaric. Guiding question, how many years did it take India to gain independence? Like persistent lovers, the colonizers showed us what would happen if we ever tried to make them leave. Left blood-stained handprints on every street corner, the cobblestones ran red for years. Figure 1, landscape of a broken nation. Economy dismembered like a corpse, each organ packaged individually for export. A homeland set on fire. When they finally left, in ships laden with everything we owned, like bruised, battered children, we began to dream of following them. Guiding question, identify neo-imperialism in the modern-day British Empire. A, colonial ghosts pace down Indian makeup aisles to restock shelf upon shelf of skin bleach whitening creams. B, their canned laughter still echoes from TV screens as one more Asian sidekick trips over the punchline. C, they haunt the Starbucks where brown-skinned youth meet to write letters to colleges in a language we were force-fed long ago. Now we look to the colonizers' maps. We study their textbooks for guidance. Figure 2, portrait of a noble savage. Like my forefathers, I am taught how to become civilized. Given the chance to build something out of this rabid skin, I unpack my foreign into whitewashed dorm room, leave the past behind at customs. I have nothing to declare. Mouth scrubbed clean, voiced from the pages of an English dictionary. Mother tongue, a vestigial organ, surgically removed by modern medicine so I'm easier to swallow. Like rice bleached white, I spin my silk for sweatshop chic, wash away the indigo until there's nothing left of me to export. Appendix. Some people write history. Some only study it. But some of us are still trapped in fine print footnotes, still struggling for space in Western textbooks. Some of us must relive history every day. Woo! One more, if y'all are okay with that.
I'm not.
Thank you. Okay, so we went to Kapsi like a month ago or so, my beautiful team and I, and it was a really great experience, but it made me realize that even in the world of marginalized voices, there's still some things that like aren't discussed, and like some things that like nobody is brave enough to talk about, I guess. So, as we poets do, I wrote a poem. When we feel bad, we write poems. So, yeah. There are some things we still do not say. I'm 5. My mother and I wait at a train station. Me, all big mouth, all loud voice and knee scrapes. Before we get on the train, she tells me, if anyone asks you your name, do not answer. Oh, sorry, my roommate is calling me. Shut up. I'm like, okay. Before we get on the train, she tells me, if anyone asks you your name, do not answer. My first lesson in silence. My first lesson in staying quiet, obedient. After all, don't you know what they do to little girls with Muslim names in a place like this? My first lesson in self-protection. I'm 12. My mother and I wait at an airport. As we line up for security, she tells me to stay quiet, tells me to nod, obedient, put out my arms for the security guard. After all, don't you know what they do to Muslims in airports? My first lesson in fear. My first lesson in seeing the bounty on my head. I'm 14. My history teacher tells the class that Palestine does not exist. That Israel is the right and only name. The place where Palestine sat in my mouth becomes quiet. Obedient, I stay silent. My first lesson in erasure. Lineage boiling like blood in my veins, maps bleached from the back of my hand. I'm 18, trying to write a poem about Guantanamo Bay. The leaked CIA reports outlined every detail of torture, explained exactly how they evaded the claims of human rights violations. Now, you know what they do to Muslims in darkened cells, don't you? The WikiLeaks report did not flood the internet with blood. Did not stain our collective memory red any more than a meme about a color-changing dress. I'm 19. In my sociology class, the professor tells us that Asian immigrants are called the model minority. Best assimilated in white society, he says we are honorary whites. I do not tell him that the majority of the world's Muslim population lives in South and Southeast Asia. Indonesia, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, me and my Asian and my brown skin and my suicide bomber name have never felt like a model for anything except terrorist. 2 months ago, 3 students were murdered in a parking lot. Dia Shadi Barakat, user Abu Salah, Razan Abu Salah. I say their full names because no one else will. I call this a hate crime because no one else will. Their white murder was described by acquaintances as being argumentative. On Facebook, he blasted religious people. Posted, if your religion just kept its big mouth shut, so would I. Silence becomes a lesson in self-protection. There are things we still do not say. We do not talk about Islamophobia the way we address racism. We do not talk about Palestine at all. Telling strangers my Muslim name is like shouting bomb in an airport. Silence has always meant safety. Last year, my mother begged me not to perform a poem about Islamophobia in the US. Feared who in the audience would be offended by my words and follow me to the parking lot for being too loud. Feared that my sentences would form a rosary bead around my throat, choking me to death with my own conviction. Mama, I cannot stay silent any longer. It is time now. I must speak.